the page that says 8-2, and it says multiplying and factoring on there. So we're only going to do the first part today. So when we do the 8-2 that goes with it, we're only focusing on the front side, and then tomorrow we'll do the second side, okay? So this is technically part 1. Okay, so multiplying a monomial by a trinomial. So this is where we're going to start with this guy. So this is literally using the distributive property for every term inside of there. So we're used to distributing only to 2 terms, but in reality, you can distribute to as many terms as are in the parentheses. So let's go ahead and do that. If you distribute, remember there's a 1 in front of this negative, it's negative 1x to the 3rd power. So what you're really doing is you're multiplying this times this. So something to recall is last chapter now when you multiply, right? So this is really, our first term is negative 1x to the 3rd times 9x to the 4th. So which parts actually get multiplied? The coefficients. Negative 1 times 9 is negative 9. Now what do we actually do with the exponents now though? You add them. You multiply your base numbers and add the exponents. So this is negative 9x to the 7th for our first term, just to remind you. Okay, let's do it again. Now we do it again. Negative 1x to the 3rd times negative 2x to the 3rd. So we multiply negative 1 times negative 2 to get what? Positive 2. And then what do we do with our exponents of 3 and 3? Add them, x to the 6th. And then last but not least, negative 1x to the 3rd times just 7. There's no x's on there, right? So we just multiply the negative 1 and the 7, the base numbers, right, to get negative 7. And then that x to the 3rd doesn't have anything to add to it, but that's okay. You just go ahead and make it, you put it back on x to the 3rd. So what would be our correct answer choice here? D. Good. Okay. So go ahead and try it with this got it here, okay? What is the simpler form of 5n and then times the quantity 3n to the 3rd minus n squared plus 8? See if you can get that correct. It's a little bit tricky. I'll write this bigger so that people can see. Okay, shouldn't be too difficult on this one. Does anyone have an idea of what it should be? Angel, go ahead. Yep, 15n to the, yep. Then what? Yep. With an n or no n? Yes, with an n, okay? Yes, so 5 times 3 is 15. There's a little 1 on this end here, so 1 plus 3 is 4. Then you do it again. This is really a 1 in front of here. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. 1 plus 2 is 3. And then finally, 5 times 8 is 40. There is not an n on this one, but there is one on this one, so you have to put it on the end. That's the final answer. Great job. I'll get you taken in a minute. Okay, so that's distributing. This is multiplying, okay? Now, the second part is going to set us up to do something called factoring. So we're basically going to work backwards to put the parentheses back in a second, right? So we're going to have our answer and we're going to put the parentheses back in. So in order to do that, the first move is to find the greatest common factor. That means what is the largest number and the biggest number of variables you could take out of each one. First, what is the greatest common factor of 5, 25, and 45? What could you divide all of those by? Anthony, go. 5. So our greatest common factor is 5, but how many x's could you take out of each one, the maximum number? Go ahead, Cody. 1. So our greatest common factor is 5x, because you could take a 5, you could divide this by 5, this by 5, and this by 5. You can also, the maximum number of x's you can take out is 1, because this guy right here only has 1 to give, right? All right, so knowing that information, I'll write this bigger. This says 3x to the 4th minus 9x squared minus 12x. What's going to be our greatest common factor out of the number 2? What's the GCF this time? Elsie, go ahead. 3. Any x's or no? How many? 3x. So this is just the GCF, okay? And so it's good that we know this, but there's a point to doing it, and that's on the next page. The point to doing the GCF is so that you can pull that out of the parentheses and then rewrite something inside. This is going to set us up to do quadratics next.
No.
Oh, yeah, you're going to love it. It's going to be great. I promise. Okay, so this is something called factoring, and this is where we're going with it, okay? And I'll write this bigger, especially for the video, because it's hard to see. So this says 4x to the 5th minus 2x to the 3rd plus 8x. Okay, so to factor it, that means we're going to put the parentheses back in. So to do that, we first identify the GCF. So what would be the greatest common factor of 4x to the 5th minus 2x to the 3rd plus 8x? Elvin, what is it?
4x.
It is not 4x. Nope, it's not that either, Emma. 2x. 2x is the largest number that you could divide all of these by, okay? So I'm going to divide all of them by 2. And I can take out an x out of all of them. So I'm going to divide all of them by 2x. And what am I going to do with this 2x? Oh, that's what Kim was saying to me. I am sorry. Yes, sorry. That's a 24. No wonder. Sorry, guys. Okay, so you were right, Elvin. No wonder you were so confused. So it is 4, isn't it? I apologize. That was my mistake for not writing it down correctly.
Very naughty.
Okay, so that's a 4x. That's our GCF. What do we do with it when we factor? Is we take it and we put it on the outside of a set of parentheses like this. Okay? So we're factoring that out of it, and then we're going to do the division. So what's 4x to the 5th divided by 4x to the 1? It is 1x, let's use a different color, to the 4th. How did I get 4? What did I do, Nathaniel? Yeah, right? Remember, I divide my bases. 4 divided by 4 is 1. And when I have a fraction, I subtract my exponents. Do you guys remember that from last chapter? Yeah. Okay, great. So let's do it again. This is 24x to the 3rd divided by 4x. Negative 24x to the 3rd divided by 4x. Emin is what?
Negative 6x squared.
Perfect. That's my middle term now. And now finally, what is 8x divided by 4x? Elvin, what is that? Positive 2. No x now, right? 1 minus 1 is 0. And we know anything to the 0 power is like multiplying by 1. This is the factored form. We just put the parentheses back in. That's the answer. Okay. Try it for this one, just A, okay? So I'll rewrite it. So factor 9x to the 6th plus 15x to the 4th plus 12x squared. Factor out a monomial here. And I promise not to write this the wrong way this time. Okay. And I see a couple of you still working, so I'll give you a second. Factor that out. Give me the factored form is what they're going to say. Or they'll say factor out a monomial. Normally they'll use the instructions, what is the factored form? Okay. Who has the greatest common factor? What did you get to factor out of there? Xavier, what did you factor out?
3.
Is that it?
X.
To the what power?
Wait, for the first one?
Mhm.
3x
For
is
all of them. 3x to the what?
3x to the 5th for 9. And
Nope, you are so very close, okay? So the greatest common factor is 3 as the number, but the x is not what he's saying it is. What is that going to be, Elsie?
3x to the 2nd.
It's 3x to the 2nd because we have at least, the lowest number of x's we have here is 2. So we can take 2 out of all of them, right? So my GCF is 3x squared this time. Then we use our parentheses. So if I factor out a 3x squared, what's left from the 9x to the 6th power? Nathaniel, what's left?
3x to the 3rd.
3x.
No, to the 4th.
There you go. Okay, good. Who knows what's left when I factor the 3x squared out of 15x to the 4th? Angel, go ahead. 5x squared is correct. And then finally, what's left when you factor the 3x squared out of the 12x squared? That one's weird. Emma, go. Just 4. This is the answer. Now, if you wanted to check it to see that it's right, go back and distribute and see if you got the original. Okay? That's how you do it. You're just doing it backwards. Okay, questions on that? Xavier,
So
go.
if you're going to distribute, you have to add the exponents in?
Correct. Distributing, you add the exponents. When you're factoring, you subtract them. Great question. Super. All right, so if you are not here today, we are on 8-2 practice today, and we are going to only do the even numbers on here, okay? Yep, and so let me help you get started. Let me stop the video here. Okay, let's stop that video.